Hey friends, today I am sharing how to make the best and most creamy mashed potatoes ever. This video is not sponsored by any of the products that I will be talking about, and all opinions are my own. Also, all products will be linked in the description below if you want to check them out. So I remember one Thanksgiving growing up where I helped make mashed potatoes, and I followed a recipe, whipped them, added cream cheese, and they turned out to be the gummiest, weirdest, like stretchy mashed potatoes I had ever encountered. I had no idea potatoes could even get like that. Now, having made mashed potatoes a time or two, I've learned a few things, and I thought I'd pass on what I've learned to you guys. My two favorite cookbooks, which I talked about in last week's video, The Science of Good Cooking and The Food Lab, is where I've learned all about the science and methods behind making the best mashed potatoes. And I highly recommend those cookbooks once again for more in-depth reading. So let's move on to how to make the best mashed potatoes. So tip number one is use the right kind of potato. Russet potatoes are probably the best go-to, but you can also get away with using Yukon Gold. Don't use red or purple or anything like that. Russet are the best because of their starch content. Other potato dishes like smashed potatoes work great with red, but russets are cheap and great for mashed potatoes. Tip number two, place potatoes in cold water with the skin on and then bring the water to a boil. This does two things. Starting the potatoes in cold water allows the potato to come up to temperature gradually with the water, allowing for even cooking. Leaving the skin on keeps the potatoes from absorbing water while it boils, and therefore when you make the mashed potatoes, it'll absorb the butter, milk, cream, whatever you add to it, which will make the mashed potatoes more creamy and flavorful. And you might be thinking, well, how do I peel the potatoes if I boil them with the skin on? Well, you're gonna let them cool enough to handle. You can use like a towel or something to hold it, and then just peel them normally with a potato peeler, and the skin will come right off. Okay, tip number three, and this is probably the biggest game changer in how I've made mashed potatoes, and it is to use a ricer or a food mill, but do not use a food processor. So this was probably one of the biggest aha moments that made the most difference in the texture when making mashed potatoes. Normally, I just throw potatoes in a mixer, add the butter, milk, cream cheese, whatever, and call it good, which makes decent mashed potatoes. However, by using a ricer or a food mill, the cells of the potato are separated with very little shearing action to break up the starch, which will produce a smooth texture that will surpass any other mashed potatoes you've made. A ricer is cheap, but you do have to do each potato kind of individually. Whereas if you use a food mill, you can do larger batches of potatoes, but those do cost more and range, in price from like $30 to over $100. If you use a food processor to make your mashed potatoes, the blades, because they are so big, will cause the potatoes to release a ton of starch, which will make really gummy mashed potatoes. And that, I'm sure, is what happened when I was younger and made those crazy mashed potatoes that nobody ate. So there you have it. These are my best mashed potato tips that you can use for the holidays or just whenever you make them for dinner. If you'd like a tasty mashed potato recipe, go ahead and check out my recipe linked in the description below. And let me know of any tips that you swear by for mashed potatoes in the comments below. All right, bye.